All right. Today we're going to talk about the United States and our entry into the First World War. Now, if you're just coming here from elsewhere, you might need a little background on World War One. You can go on this channel and find my videos with World War One, a quick study, or even a deeper dive into it if you need it. For the United States was neutral from the start of the war, but I'm going to throw some quotes around neutral because we really were putting our thumb on the scale towards the Allies. The war began in August of 1914. The United States is a neutral state in this war, and this really follows a general feeling by most Americans and our president that a European war was not in America's best interest. Woodrow Wilson believed when this war began that he could be the guy to help bring an end to the war based on his Wilsonian principles, his notions of moral diplomacy, his Christian background shaping his understanding of right and wrong in the world, and that he could be a broker to end the conflict. There is some opposition to neutrality in the United States, though. The United States was generally pro-British and anti-German, as we had greater cultural connections with Britain. And Germany's growth as a major power in the world was threatening to the United States, especially as they grew more interested in Latin American relationships. President Wilson even questioned the loyalty of some German Americans, and the American press was going deep into German anti-German propaganda with their description of the Germans in this war as the Hun. This harkens back to the Huns. This is of Attila fame and invasions of the Roman Empire. Basically, the barbarians that are trying to bring civilization down. The United States did offer support for the Allied effort, even while maintaining official neutrality. We were willing to trade with any partner during the war, and some argued that putting an embargo against a particular nation would even be illegal according to the rules of trade. From the start of the war, the majority of American trade, though, to Europe was going to the Entente powers. And this is largely because the British had blockaded Germany, and that blockade was quite effective. U.S. trade with allies was 10 times that of its trade with Germany in the early years of the war. The US was also loaning a lot of money to Germany. This is coming from the American government and from American businesses. And that total got up to $7 billion by the time the United States would be entering the war in 1917. And these loans could only be paid back with an Allied victory. Now, on the sea between the United States and this conflict, the British Navy early in the war was confiscating some American ships that were accused of carrying contraband, which is the catch-all phrase for basically anything that could be used by the belligerents in the war. But no Americans were killed in these confiscations. By February of 1915, as the war on the Western Front had turned into that stalemated trench warfare, the Germans opened up a policy on the seas of unrestricted submarine warfare on any ship traveling to Britain. Basically, Germany was trying to use its U-boat fleet as an effective blockade against goods getting into Britain. In May of 1915, a British passenger liner called the Lusitania was sunk, and there were 128 Americans among the some 1,200 people killed on the Lusitania. Woodrow Wilson would call on Germany to abandon this naval policy of unrestricted submarine warfare. A few months later, another ship, the Arabic, was sunk, killing two more Americans. And following that, with concerns that the United States might jump in the war, Germany did move to restrict their submarine warfare. In the next year, in March of 1916, after Germany sunk another ship, a ferry that traveled across the English Channel called the Sussex, Germany issued what was known as the Sussex Pledge, that passengers would not be targeted, that merchant ships would only be sunk if they were carrying weapons or munitions, that safety of crew and passengers would be ensured. Now, this is obviously very hard to do on the open seas, and it's going to slow Germany down, but they were concerned about the United States getting into the war. But by January 1917, Germany recognized that they either stop supplies getting into the Allies or they lose this war. So they rescinded the Sussex Pledge and resumed unrestricted submarine warfare. The German belief was that they could win this war in Europe before the Americans could muster an army and get it across the Atlantic. Now, this is all happening amidst a presidential election in 1916, and Woodrow Wilson, running for the Democratic Party, is actually going to run on a campaign slogan that he has kept us out of the war, even though we know that he was definitely putting his thumb on the scale towards the Allies. And Wilson was far less interested in staying out of this conflict than his campaign had suggested. But he did win the war. So now we get moving towards this war effort. That resumption of unrestricted submarine warfare by German U-boats will increase anti-German sentiments and anti-German propaganda in newspapers. And it will also lead to the sinking of course, more American merchant ships. Wilson felt that he could successfully shape the post-war world, more so if the United States got involved in helping this war come to a faster end. He would craft his 14 points, his 14 ideas for how to end this war with a goal of achieving peace without victory. German espionage, also in the United States, was believed to be at play for some attacks in America. For example, in July 1916, there was a major explosion at a munitions plant in Black Toms, New Jersey. And this was blamed on German espionage. The Germans had also reached out to Mexico in the form of the Zimmerman telegram to try to get Mexico to enter the war to keep the United States occupied. And please recall that the United States had just invaded Mexico itself, hunting for Pancho Villa. There was a Russian Revolution in February of 1917 that ousted the Tsar and gave many concerns that Russia might not be long for this war. So by April, President Wilson will ask Congress for that declaration of war, and the United States gets involved. We'll see you next time.